welcome everybody to the first rally for Teresa Rafer, Multnomah County Sheriff. Thank you guys for coming out today. Yesterday we were out in Oregon City at Oregon City High School. We participated or supported a walkout of Oregon City High School students because there were some images that were circulating around in their high school, some racist notes that had been left on somebody's doorstep, and then also in a picture at the airport. I mean, even these students in Whitelandia, Oregon City, realize that even though they may not have a large community of color, they still see the racism and they still are standing against it. These are our youth that are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old who see this and are willing to walk out of their classes at high school and stand together in solidarity with us. So we invited some of them to come out today. I don't know if anyone here is an Oregon City high school student, but we also invited a lot of our partners from R2D2. We have the 15 Now campaign. We have Home Forward, things like that. Millennial. Anyway, so today we're here to talk about the reasons why we feel like Teresa Rafer would be the best candidate for Multnomah County Sheriff. We have had a long road to where we are now, but also I feel like when it comes to discrimination and brutality that police can cause on a community, Teresa knows that better than anybody. And if we're trying to stop something like that, if we're trying to stand up against it and speak out against it, and trying to actually make change in our community, what better person than someone who has experienced that brutality themselves to stand up against it and lead the people that are supposed to be protecting and serving us. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Teresa Rafer.
All right, so thank you guys for coming out. And yeah, this is a little weird because usually when I run for office, I'm the one who makes that happen, right? I'm the one who goes and puts my name, on the dotted line, and it becomes a piece of the ballot so people see it there. But this time, last Friday, a week ago, 7 days ago, I got on my Facebook and I saw numerous memes, and my name was tagged in everybody's posts, hundreds of them, and people were asking me to run for sheriff. They were saying, write in Teresa Rafer. And in my inbox and all these other ways that I can communicate, everybody was asking if it was okay for them to promote this type of stuff, as if, when they call me to public service, I'm not going to answer, right? So I was like, yeah, of course, let's go ahead and do this, but let me check some things out. So I looked at our election standards. I looked at how things are happening here in Oregon and the electoral process. And what we found out is that basically, if I was already a police officer, I would not be eligible to be a write-in candidate. So let me say that again. If I was already law enforcement, I could not be a write-in candidate. But based on Oregon law, since I'm not, I can be. And I can be elected sheriff. And after I'm elected sheriff, I have 12 months to complete the certification so I can keep that job. I saw rumors on Facebook that basically were telling people if you write in her name, they're going to throw away your ballot. No, they will not. You can call the elections office yourself. They will not throw away the ballot. Just spell my name right. It's not Mazik. That's my great-great-grandparents' name. It's Rafer. But if you spell it right and we get the most votes, then we win. As of Wednesday, there was only 6.6% of the votes in Multnomah County were being counted. That was a good sign for us because I thought that when I saw that 6.6, it said 68%. And I was like, oh, we lost, no way. But 6.6 means that less than 10% of the voters have cast their ballot. I know a lot of ballots are sitting at home and people haven't even opened them because they're so disencouraged because of our presidential elections. Write in anybody's name for that if you don't trust who we got running. But make sure you put my name where it belongs, and that's in Multnomah County for sheriff. I know that you guys have seen memes that have, Mike Reese's name on them, and it refers back to May 12th when Keaton Otis was killed. That was his first day of work. Since then, you can kind of see the body of work that we have to deal with. because we as activists know way too well about the inequities in Multnomah County. Multnomah County even knows about these things. They just had a MacArthur Red Foundation report that came out this past January, and it showed that there is a very serious disparity here. It basically states in their own audit that was paid for by the MacArthur Foundation that they are targeting Black and brown people in Multnomah County for incarceration. People that are from here, we know that. They start targeting us when we're in school. That's why when you look at the LIPSIC board, the committees that work with the Multnomah County and the sheriffs and the Portland Public Schools, their job is to identify people that they feel are gonna fill the beds in those prisons. As a sheriff, your job is to manage the jails. You manage those systems. People were asking, why is she interested in this job? Like it's a joke. Where have we been working? What have we been doing? What have we been trying to stop? Mass incarceration. Why does mass incarceration happen? Why does it happen? Disparities. Why do they happen? Because we have dishonest people. We have biased policies. We have an intention to create a profitable system based on poverty. That's in writing. Those are their numbers, not mine. In what system with less than 6% of the population in a small town like Multnomah County, how could they overrepresent the prisons? How could they overrepresent the jails? How is it possible that their children overrepresent foster care systems? How is that possible? We're less than 6% of the population. We need a definite change. If we look at what happened in our country yesterday, let's think about North Dakota. And we see what's happening out there to the protesters that are out there trying to protect our water and our lands. There has to be something done. Those people who, this land is, we're leasing our space here, but this is our land. If before anybody came here and conquered America, this was already our land. And now we're insurgents. People of color in this country, Indians, natives, our families, they're insurgents in their own country. We're insurgents in our own skin. All of that is political, every piece of it. And we're out here and we call ourselves political activists. If people don't understand that our message is to dismantle policies that promote discrimination, then something's wrong with our messaging. We haven't been out here trying to terrorize people. We're not out here promoting and inciting violence. We're not doing riots. We're doing peaceful protests. We do nonviolent direct actions. But when we went to occupy City Hall so that we could have our voices heard, so that we could have access to due process, we were brutalized. We were beaten. We weren't there for 41 days. We were in there for a couple of minutes and we were invited in. And we put our names down on a list that gave us access to being able to testify. We even got red tickets. Who still got their tickets? And we got brutalized. The headline said, "Amelie, unruly." They called beating up women and children and elders and people with disabilities, they called that unruly behavior. They said we went in there and protested, that we basically like staged the protest in City Hall. We were too tired. We had just slept outside on the ground. We were in there chilling because it was warmer. And we knew we had a time that was gonna come where we got to testify. We didn't have to protest. We already knew that all of the votes were in. That's the truth of the matter. We knew that when we went in there, so we had no reason to protest. We felt like the system was gonna work for us because we knew that the way they got the votes was illegal. And we knew that there were people that have law degrees actually working to injunctify or injunction on that whole situation. We knew that there was a judge working on it, and we knew that our friends at ACLU were working on it. And because of all of our behavior, as far as political activism and nonviolent direct action, we had made more people aware so that they could write in as well. So we felt we already won. We didn't have to get outrageous. We didn't have to protest. Being there is not a protest. Being there is having access to due process. The reason that I'm running for sheriff not only is because my friends and the community has asked me to, or has, determined that writing my name in could give us an opportunity to get access to, whatever, because I don't trust anything anymore, really. I don't know, even how to continue telling people to protest and use our constitutional rights to make change. I don't know how I can stand and continue telling people to do that when I know that we got to pay the price with our bodies. When I know they're going to beat us up, when I know they're going to come out and terrorize our kids with guns and riot gear and SWAT trucks and LRADs. I know they're going to do that to us. I know they're going to pepper spray us when we reach for our allies to pick them up off the ground, because they do that to us. They did it to us in front of the whole world. And then I get calls this morning asking me about Malheur. My baby can't go outside with a gun, not a toy, without being murdered. So about 41 days at a compound of federal land, saying I'm gonna kill an FBI agent with my gun, with my family saying we're not gonna go, that wouldn't, the difference is we would have been murdered. The difference is the community would have came out with the police and the FBI, and they would have helped murder our black asses, because they don't like us. They don't like us. They believe we have no privilege. They believe we're in the wrong place at the wrong time. They believe we're insurgents. We're insurgents in America. I remember when I grew up, they were talking about the American pie and how all these people came to the country and all of our cultures and all of our language and everything good about us was going to make a better future for our children. And look what our babies have to inherit. The children at Oregon City are being ridiculed and persecuted for speaking out against racism. And grown people are saying, why don't you guys ignore it? Is that the world that we actually live in 2016? How indecent. How nasty is that? How systemic is the approach to tell people to shut up about it, don't complain about it, it's not a problem? I got a problem with it. I got a problem with all of it. I want to understand exactly why the paradigm has not shifted to unity. I want to understand why people are trying to liberate themselves when we live in a country that's supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave. Like, we're still trying to be liberated, but we're in a free country. Really? We're not. Unless you have access to political power, and unless the politicians that you vote in have the courage and the will to stand up for what's right and create policy and develop opportunities for all of us, you're not going to have it. You're not going to get it getting along. You're not going to get it being quiet. You're not going to get it by ignoring issues that's happening. You're not going to get it by looking crazy at us like something's wrong with us. People that speak out, they're decent. They're decent. You know what I'm saying? You understand what decency means anymore? Do any of us even understand what values mean anymore? I don't think that we do, because look at our country, 2016, we're an embarrassment to the entire world. We're beating up natives on their own land. We're humiliating children that speak out against racism. We're beating people that want to use due process in order to change their lives. That's what we're doing here in America right now, 2016. And don't let me get on our justice system. When we talk about the district attorney's office and what happened to Larnell Bruce, and the district attorney's office in Multnomah County, and what happened to Christopher Kalanji, and Keaton Otis, and Aaron Campbell, and Kendra James, when we talk about what happened to James Jahar Perez, when we talk about, let's talk about guns and parks, when we talk about Tamir Rice, when we talk about those things, how decent are we to say, oh, well, they were exonerated and that's just the way it is, and not to have a reaction? How decent is it to say, well, you know what? Not guilty is the answer. It's not. And you don't have to accept that. But when are we going to have the courage to make a difference ourselves? When are we going to have the courage to say, you know what? I can't be embarrassed about being a decent human being. I'm just going to have to go for it, because guess what? There's some other people that might be decent, but they're embarrassed of being decent, because being decent is like disgusting in America. Like, that's the wrong thing to do. We got political correctness. You just got to look good. I'm looking indecent to America. I could be fake right now, and I could have all the accolades, and people would listen to me, and I wouldn't have to tell them shit. When I ran for office before, and I sat next to politicians, and they asked us questions, guess what would happen? I would actually give an answer, because I was waiting to get the opportunity to get an answer. But let me show you what happens in 60 seconds. If you listen to a politician when they give you an answer. I'm glad you asked me that. And once elected, I'm going to do everything in my community, and I would like to meet with you and talk about it. I'm going to do everything in my power to do exactly what you just said, and I'm really glad that you asked that question, because we should all be on the same page when it comes to that, and I'm just going to do it when I get elected. And that's what they tell you, and you say, wait a minute, but you didn't answer my question. The question is, can you stop the violence? The question is, can you stop mass incarceration? The question is, why is Oregon number 3 of the worst states for educating our children? Why are we leading the nation for the hungriest children? Why are we leading the nation for sexual violence against women? None of that's progressive, but we look good. We look good. We're Portlandia. It's time to stop looking good and start doing the work so that we can get to the good. It's time to really take your political power seriously, really. Don't take yourself for a joke. When we're talking about local politics, when we're talking about the power of the people, it's your will. It's what you do with that will. It's what you do with that courage. It's what you influence others. If you want to influence policy, you got to start influencing the people in your community first. You can't go out there and influence a senator or a legislator or a representative to do anything if you can't talk to the people in your own community and get them on board with what needs to be done. I'm asking you guys to do that. I'm saying, really, that based on the state law, this could actually happen. We could actually have a write-in candidate for sheriff.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. You know how powerful that is? You know I like audits. Y'all know I like audits. You know I like indicting people. You know I want to make sure that the government officials are doing the right thing. I want to check their emails. I love open records requests. I'm glad that the Oregon State, judges made sure that we can get them easier. We don't have to fight that hard to get our open records. And guess what? As somebody that manages the jails and has to work with the DA's office and the Portland police about dealing with the people that are coming through that system, I get to do that. I'm not too concerned about running around with a gun. Because you see me, let me go outside with a gun. I'm not too concerned about wearing a green polyester uniform. I'm looking at turning them black. I want black clothes on when I go out there with my black gun. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to probably have to get a driver, because driving while black in Portland is a problem. 44% of the stops data teaches you that. They stop us from driving while black. That'd be a problem for me. I'm just saying. Yeah, let's do what's necessary. You got more power than you can expect. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If you put me in that seat, if we get those votes, and nobody wants Reese there no more. People were sending in empty ballots. So if we get those votes here in Multnomah County, it's a problem for them. The crooks, the real criminals, it's a problem for them. That's why they're trying to ignore us. They can't ignore us. The whole world is watching. Look at how criminal our system is right now. They just indicted the chief of police, the former chief. And they gave him a misdemeanor charge for shooting somebody while he was drunk and then lying about it. Do you know how many kids and adults are in the prisons here in Oregon for crimes that ain't nowhere near that severe? How in the hell does somebody lie to the police after shooting somebody while they were drunk and get indicted on a misdemeanor charge? Meanwhile, we got children like Larnell Bruce, who was killed by a white supremacist. And the white supremacist, his record looked just like the chief's record. Every violent offense was knocked off. Sometimes he would spend a little bit of time in jail, but nothing like what those kids that's under Measure 11 are doing. Nothing like the time that they're spending in jail. Over 40 violent offenses. And we still let him come out to do more. He came out and he killed. And he's not sorry for it either. And they're not even going to take his trial out until next summer. You know why they're doing that. It's political. There's so much indecent stuff happening in our local politics that they don't want to see something else indecent happen. They're tired of the world watching them. But right now, this is when you raise your voice louder. If embarrassment, looking bad, is something that they can't help, and that makes them move to action to do something different, that's what we got to do. My thought today is going to the district attorney's office and calling him a bitch. That's what I want to do. I'm going to do that today. I don't give a fuck. Rod Underhill is a jerk. He's a criminal. He needs to be indicted. The district attorney's office needs to be indicted. These people, these policies, we need to start asking for open records requests. Whenever your family member or something happens in one of these judicial systems, ask for public records. Get somebody to help you get an investigation going on. When I become mayor, when I become the sheriff, when I become the sheriff, I'm going to hold workshops on how to get more information, on how to do your own investigations, on how to hold law officials and government officials and everybody else responsible. I'm going to be going down to the legislature like I have been for the last 6 years, And I'm going to be bringing the voices of our community. But guess what? I'm not going to be going by myself, because guess what? Back in the day when the sheriffs used to be appointed by their community, they were appointed by their community because people trusted them. So if I got people that trust me and they're telling me what's happening, I'm taking them down there. I'm taking them to Salem. I'm going to show them how policy works. I'm going to show you how to make sure that the language that you believe in or that you need to feel safe is understood by the representatives that are writing the bills. That's why I'm running for sheriff. I'm not excited about the gun and the uniform. I'm excited about the opportunity to have access so we can see what's been happening, so that we can change it from within, because they're not hearing us. We don't have leaders that are courageous enough to do the things that we're asking them to do. But we see what's possible, right? Malheur, right? We see what's possible, right? So let's get some politicians in there that we could trust and see how possible it is for us to get justice. You know, let's see what that looks like. Let's make sure that when the children say, like they did at Oregon City yesterday, after they finished with their protest and they realized that their free speech had been oppressed, they said, I'm not going back to lunch. I said, don't go back to lunch. Go to law school. Thank you.
So, thank you, Teresa. So my name is Micah Rhodes. I'm one of the lead coordinators for Don't Shoot Portland. We started this campaign just sort of, I think, last week, just out of nowhere. And I got the invitation to the page saying that we are going to launch off a campaign for Teresa Rayford for Multnomah County Sheriff. And at first I was thinking, oh man, this is a prank or something. It's gotta be. You know, knowing Teresa, I was like, there's no way that she would ever want to work with the police. But then we thought, we talked about it, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, we've talked about this many times about how we get things actually changed. We actually have to get into the system and make changes within the system. Normally we do that through going to council meetings and voting on things and things like that, but we haven't actually had someone in office or any sort of position where they can change things that's actually on our side. And so I'm looking at this like, well, if there's anybody that I know that can speak and people are going to listen and can speak and people are going to trust them, it would be Teresa Rayford. I've known Teresa for several years now, and I would never ever have expected that she would run for office, but I'm really glad that she did, because as a black man living in Whitelandia, walking down the street is scary sometimes, you know? If it's too late at night and I want to go to the corner store, I have to think about it like, oh man, I might get stopped by the police. Or if I'm driving down the street, I have to think about, oh man, I have to keep an eye out for police, because if I get pulled over and I'm reaching for my license or whatever, you know, bam, it's over. But when you put somebody in office of power, especially one that deals specifically with officers, somebody that I trust, like Teresa, who she's the number one person I always want watching my back, because she's always had my back and she's always been there for me. And every single person that knows Teresa on a personal level knows that Teresa is the most trustworthy individual who will always have your back, and is like family to me, you know? Especially for those of us who don't really have family that support us. Teresa's always there. Teresa's always who I can talk to when I got a problem, and she's going to work her hardest to try and find the solution. Teresa's the person who I know, if I am feeling some sort of way about anything going on, I can always go to Teresa, and she's always got an answer for me. And I don't think there should be anybody else that is more qualified for the job of Multnomah County Sheriff, a job that you have to vow to protect and serve the people, than someone I've known to be protecting and serving the people for years now. For free. She puts her life on the line. She stands in front of these protests against a line of army men in black uniforms trying to beat us down, and she's still there in the front. She's got security here that are watching her, and I always have to remind them, keep an eye on her, stay close to her, because she'll run off and be in the front, put herself right in front of danger, in front of everybody. Because if there's anybody I know who's going to stand in front and protect the people, it's Teresa. Teresa is a protector. If there's anybody who I wanted to be a public servant, who I knew was going to do their job the correct way, it would be Teresa. Teresa always knows the answers. Teresa knows how to solve problems. She's a problem solver. But not only is she a problem solver, because we have a lot of problem solvers in City Hall. Their job is to problem solve. However, she's also a doer. She actually makes the changes. She changes things around, she makes them better. We have a problem in some sort of march or a protest or any sort of public meeting or forum. Teresa knows the answer. Teresa knows how to control things in a safe and healthy way. She has been a sheriff. She's not elected. She may not be in a paid position, but she has been policing our people in the most appropriate and healthy and safe way that I can ever imagine. Teresa is the person that I know can do this job, and that's why I'm voting for Teresa Rayford.
How y'all doing? So it's like, we always get politicians talking about change, but then when they get into office, they always protect the special interests of entities. If you really want real change, why not a political activist that's been fighting for change for the past 2 years straight, nonstop? And not just with police accountability, she's been working with kids, she's been working with mothers that have lost kids that have been affected by police brutality, the housing discrimination crisis, the homeless, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's really about the people, you know? And so, make sure y'all spell her name right. Teresa Rayford, it's like my mother figure, you know what I'm saying? She's everybody's mom that's been politically engaged for the last 2 years, you know what I'm saying, with Don't Shoot PDX. And it's not just about Teresa. We put way too much on Teresa. Even Teresa would tell you it's about the people being politically engaged. And it doesn't matter what we get nationally. It's about the local government, what we can affect locally in our own communities. That's power. Getting social justice, economic, you know what I'm saying, and political power back into the hands of the people. So every time we get a leader that's put on a pedestal, they want to take them out. So if we all become leaders, we are change overall. And that's the message up today. So clap it up for that. So we can get the sound right. I was actually gonna bless y'all with Asada. If you haven't heard, my new single Asada is basically about what we're out here for right now. I spoke too soon. We're gonna have Justin speak. So wherever Justin at, let's get it.
I apologize. I know that you were all excited to hear Glenn do his thing, and now you're listening to me talk. So yeah, just to say again why it's so important that we all write in Teresa Rayford for Multnomah County Sheriff. Right, like everybody who's been up here has said, this is a person who is always fighting for people and standing behind people and always having people's back. And there's nobody that you can trust more to do the work of serving and protecting the people than Teresa Rayford. And herself and the organizations that she's created are constantly out in the streets, standing in solidarity and supporting people and causes, right, from being one of the first groups to support the $15 minimum wage measures here in Portland, to taking stances in terms of deputies not helping to evict people who are struggling from their homes, right? Committing to not allow our sheriff's deputies and to not allow inmate labor to be running around town sweeping homeless people from one tent camp to another without any real solutions, right? This is a person who's going to take the job as sheriff and is really going to make positive change in our community and in our county as a result of it. And that's not anything that Mike Reese is going to do, right? Mike Reese was appointed by a sheriff who has been in all kinds of trouble, right? He quit because he was under pressure because of allegations of sexual abuse, intimidating employees at the sheriff's department, right? Spending money from the department to buy cars, right? Trying to use his influence as sheriff to influence union votes for the sheriff's union, right? This is a bad guy, and he is who appointed Stanton, right? He's who appointed Reese, right? That's who chose this guy, is a disgusting human being. Right, and that should tell you something about that choice that was made and about whether or not you should be voting for Mike Reese. Right? He's not going to help this community. He's exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do and what this community is trying to be about, right? He's bad news, and Teresa is going to make sure that real changes happen. So vote for Teresa. Write it in.
Thanks, Justin. All right, I'm Gregory McKelvey, for those who don't know. And I was just going to talk a little bit about like the importance of having good people in government, and as the sheriff, especially. So in Portland, a lot of people try and make our movement specifically just about like black people that have been shot, which is definitely a problem. And why that's a problem is they always try and bring up like, what about black on black crime? Well, the thing is, there's so much mechanisms for if a black person kills a black person to see justice, but what we found is that when a cop kills a black person, there's almost no mechanism for them to see justice, and this police contract could have been a tool to fight against that. If I commit a crime, then the cops tell on me. If a cop sees another cop commit a crime, he doesn't tell on him, and that's a problem. And so here in Portland, we make up obviously a very small percentage of the city, yet we're extremely overrepresented in the jails and in arrests and in stops, and not just stops, but police contacts. So the amount of times that the police contact us is extremely more than white people. And so your reasons for that have to be either black people are just worse, so that makes sense why we're contacted more and arrested more and have worse sentences, or that there's a problem in police disparity. So a lot of like our false progressives in Portland and across the nation try and talk about community policing, but what I would say is, what community are you talking about policing? Because where you have in the city of Portland, like up in the hills, they're doing crimes and drugs just the same, but it's our communities that are the ones that are being policed, and what that looks like is an occupation, especially when most of our officers don't even live in the city of Portland. So when you're growing up under an occupation, that helps build this mistrust between the police and our community. So I really warn you guys, when people try and talk about community policing, you ask, what community are you policing? How much sense would it make? The amount of crimes that police solve just on the beat is usually less than 5%. So it's very rare that an officer is just driving down the street and he goes, oh, look, a raping, and goes and solves it. Or look, a murder just occurred and I go and solve it. So why do we have these officers on the street that aren't just there for traffic but are just out there if crimes aren't being solved that way? The way crimes are solved is I see a crime, I hear of a crime, and somebody calls the police, and the police come and solve it, is how most crimes are solved. And it should be that we are able to do that, and it's members of our own community and people that we trust, because crime does happen. But right now we can't trust those people. So how much sense would it make if we paid 950 firefighters to walk around the street daily waiting for fires to be put out? Right? That'd be a waste of money, and it makes no sense. Because how fires work is you see a fire, know of a fire, or an alarm catches a fire, and the fire people come and put out the fire, and that's how policing should work. So the history of policing in black people, from Columbus to the Pilgrims to up until almost the Civil War, we didn't have police patrolling around. Like, how it worked was you would tell on somebody, right? And it was somebody that you trust that could come. But it wasn't. Black people's first encounters with the police were from slave patrols. That's where we started these patrols of police going around before the Civil War and after the Civil War, when black people were supposed to be free, and yet there would be armed patrols of people bringing them back into slavery, even if they were a free person already, or bringing them to slavery in general. So that is our first contact with patrolled police, and that same system has almost continued as they patrol our streets for no reason when we haven't committed